Welcome to the Iveco Daily 4x4 version 2 brake upgrade. What we do is replace the standard Iveco rotor from a 25mm solid rotor to now a 28mm ventilated rotor, which gives us an increase in diameter of 18%, increasing the brake efficiency on the front mechanically by 18%. But the beauty of this upgrade is that we have a ventilated rotor. It does not run as hot. We pick up an 18% advantage over the larger diameter, and the beauty of the kit is the rotor now can be removed and replaced on the vehicle without pulling all the swivel balls and everything else. The other beauty of the version 2 kit, there is no modifications to the stub axle, machining out and weakening the brake brackets. We have now a heavy duty casting casted that will bolt straight onto the vehicle. You swap the rotors over and you can bolt the heavy duty caliper mounting bracket straight onto the vehicle without weakening the brake componentry, modifying your vehicle so the vehicle can be put back to standard, or it can bolt straight onto it. This kit has been bought for overseas market, made for overseas market as well as the Australian market. It is ADR 35 compliant, and also all componentry in this kit has been FEA tested for Motor Transport Department. There is no other brake upgrade for Ivecos out in the marketplace that have all these criteria. The beauty of this kit is that we've increased the front brakes by 18%, but we've also increased the rear brakes by putting a bigger rear wheel cylinder. It's like having a 2-ton jack instead of a 1-ton jack in the rear brakes. It is increasing the pressure in the rear drums to balance out the increased rotor diameter. This is a must to keep the ABS balanced. So the wheel cylinders get replaced, the rotor gets replaced with a ventilated rotor. We have now a one-piece bracket. This is the only DIY kit on the market that can actually be bolted up without any machining that needs to be done to the vehicle. It's a purpose built for the application and are manufactured for this application. These are not four-wheel drive rotors, have been remachined to suit an Iveco. We have proper built two-piece rotors made for the Iveco. We have now videoed the fitting up process on it. These kits can be fitted in half the time of the other kits that's out in the marketplace. So we put a fully documented fitting instructions for it so people can view and how to fit the brake upgrade.
In the first operation, we are taking off the centre cap to get to the access to the CV joint, and I can remove the lock tabs on the CV nut. Then we start to remove the ABS wire from inside the wheel arch. We have to disconnect the ABS wire up underneath the guard. This is the plug here for the ABS sensor. Push. Okay. And we just feed the ABS wire back through all the holes, so there's no damage on the ABS wires. Let's push this back up out of my way. And then to remove the caliper bolts and plugs, off, 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 and the ABS and the pad sensor wire. And then we can remove the caliper bolts. And then I'll remove the bracket holding the rest of these wires, and get it out me having it the wrong direction. And then the caliper now will reach down to the ground. And we'll take the caliper bracket off. We'll be using these bolts again. And then the caliper bracket comes off. And we won't be using that, we have a new bracket to go on. Okay. Okay, we'll undo the tie rod nut and then break the tie rod taper. Top nut. This one has an automatic oiler, so it's a little bit different than automatic greaser. We'll move that up out of the way. And then next there's a CV shaft. Ready? And the whole front assembly is off the car and no wires damaged. Okay, with this process, we no longer will be using the dust shield, but we try not to damage them just for in case in the future for another job. Just pressing the hub apart.
Alright, so we're just disassembling the rotor, and with the process of taking off the ABS ring first. So these will vary on tightness sometimes, but it's as simple as taking 6 Allen head bolts off. There we go. There's that. And then we take the 6 of these ones apart. Two washers. Nope. Removing of the old rotor. And before installing the new one, we like to prepare the mating surface and removing any rust deposits. There we go. Quick little blow off. We grab our oversized rotor, face down, and drop it on top. Align your bolt holes. Put your washers back over the top. And then we like to use a bit of Loctite to prevent the bolts from possibly backing out. Got them all started by one thread. Now we can use our rattle gun. Locate the washers in the hub. And then tighten them all down. Cool. Then we remove any possible debris that landed in the face where the ABS ring is going to sit. I like to remove any rust on that face as well. Cleaning up that shoulder, because that allows it to locate. And then we lower that down. Align your bolt holes, do a spin test, checking that the faces are making contact, and which they are. And then a drop of Loctite down each thread. And then drop your tapered Allen key heads. Sweet, and we'll any Loctite left around. And that's it done. Cool.
A little bit of lubricant. Must have to make sure that the spacer, wheel bearing spacer, is still in there when you press the job together. This is the new hub. Notice no grinding, no drilling and tapping of holes. And that goes through. ABS sensor has got enough clearance. Okay, so this is the new one-piece bracket compared to the old original bracket. We have a bigger diameter to make up for the bigger diameter rotor. That will go onto here. We put some Loctite on the bolts, and there's a washer supplied with each bracket. They will be tensioned up when they get onto the car. This making the right size bracket for the pad to run on the bigger diameter rotor. Right clearance is underneath for caliper clearance sideways for wheel bearing issues if there is in the future. Okay, we're going to be coming in on this side here. Before we put these on, we grease the splines up just so they won't rust inside the spline in the hub. So we'll just put some grease on the CV shaft. Just slide her on. Just got to make sure that the CV goes into the spline, and then you can push it home. We'll tap the top down. Just to get that started, and we'll apply two nuts, the two front side nuts, just to hold everything in place. And the drag link tie rod. Okay, now we'll put the CV nut back in. I swapped the nuts over from left to right, so we're hammering back into a different position. And then we'll just hammer this in so we don't forget. And it's ready for the cap to get sealed back on and the rest of the caliper mounted up. Push the piston pads back all the way. You make sure that the hose isn't twisted in any way before we put it back on the car. Feed the pad sensor wire through the caliper. Make sure the pads are still in location. I'll do the bolts up holding the calipers on. And plug the pad sensor back in. Done. Because the caliper now sits higher closer to the wheel, I zip tie the pad sensor wire closer to the bracket just so it won't get caught in the wheel. So now we can tuck this ABS wire back through its route that it needs to go. So pull the inner guard forwards to feed the wires through to make sure they're not getting tangled up in the wrong parts. And plug the ABS wire back together. Pull the wires back and clip them back into their correct holes. Okay, we'll just do these top nuts up here, top bolts up. And now we'll put some sealant on the grease cap, on the CV nut cap. And make sure it's home all the way. And that will stop the water getting into it to rust the nut back up. These rubber grommets back in to hold the ABS wires in the right position. And this top one. And clip the ABS wires into their correct positions. And that's all ready for the wheel to go back on.
Okay, because we've increased the front brake leverage on the front by putting the bigger rotor on it, we now have to fit the oversized, the bigger wheel cylinder on the rear to increase the rear brakes to match up with the fronts. I'll just walk you through this process. It's not very hard. Yep. Whoops, clutch one spring off. Just pull the shoes back. Lift the handbrake bracket out inside that holds that so it doesn't fall down. And we're ready to unbolt the wheel cylinder. The wheel cylinder can be replaced without taking all the shoes off. I'll crack the line. Brake line's loose. We'll loosen off the two mounting bolts. Okay, so the wheel cylinder can now be removed from the front and it can come out with the ABS ring still in place and the shoes in place. It's a little bit tricky, but you just wind it through here and the cylinder will come out. Remove the new bleeder screw. So the wheel cylinder now can be assembled this way through here. And it's in place to go back in through the backing plate. Start the pipe. This version 2 brake upgrade can be fitted now in half the time of the brake upgrades that are already out in the marketplace. Retension the brake pipe up and tension up the two. Put the new bleeder screw back in. Assemble the two push rods out of the wheel cylinders. Assemble the handbrake mechanism back in. Poke it through the side here. Hook the two top springs back up. Right, all I've got to do now is tension the two bolts up, rear wheel cylinders are fitted. That's all that's involved.